Well, Jay, welcome back to the studio.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. It's a little cold outside, so
Oh my gosh, no
good to
kidding.
be inside.
It dropped. Well, usually Henry walks to the bus stop,
Yeah.
and today I drove him. We sat in the truck, and I was looking at my phone. I was like, it feels like it's -4 outside with the wind
I left
chill.
Kingsville yesterday. It was 80 degrees. I got here, it was 20 degrees.
Yeah. Well, so you were in Kingsville. What were you doing down there?
Quail hunting. Got a lucky hunt on the King Ranch and moved a lot of birds and got a little hot. But, yeah, 2 days of good quail hunting down there.
So you had a good season?
Had a great season. I think I was telling you my record number of coveys flushed this year, and it wasn't necessarily because there were more birds. I just got to hunt a little more. But this is the best year we've had since 2016, 17.
Across the state, you think?
Across the state.
Yeah.
South Texas probably wasn't their best year, but it was above average. And the Panhandle and Rolling Plains, all great numbers this year. Up from considerably from last year. Hopefully next year, even better.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so where all did you hunt this year?
Let's see. Well, I went to Georgia. That's a kind of an annual trip. And then out in the Rolling Plains, we do some donated hunts out at our research ranch and got to tag along on a couple of those. And down in Kingsville and Hebronville, and a little ranch up, or my ranch got a little quail hunt in.
Mm.
First time we've shot birds out there in 7 or 8 years. So
Yeah.
that was fun.
Nice.
Always good to shoot your own birds.
Yeah. Yeah. Hebronville, I deer hunted, actually shot that buck in Hebronville,
Mm-hmm.
and we did a day of, it was not any kind of quail hunting that you would have been like, oh, this is fun. It was, they corned the road.
Yeah.
These people have more money than,
Well,
to do with.
That's
And so we got on
yeah.
this giant, like,
top drive
top-drive thing, and it had like a full bar. It was more like a booze cruise.
Right.
And you just, when you saw the birds, you'd jump up and they'd fly and you'd shoot them.
Yeah. Well, Hebronville's, in my opinion, Hebronville's more birds than anywhere in the world right now in the last few years.
Yeah. They had dogs, but they were black-mouthed curs that they used for people who would wound deer.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, they weren't hunting quail with them.
That could be a good YouTube video.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you had a great season. What, don't you run English pointer, right?
I've got 3 pointers and 2 cockers. Cockers have become really popular, and they're great house dogs. They're great flushers and retrievers. Most of these hunts I went on, there were cockers, and they find the birds that nobody else can. And as a quail hunter, it's a really great companion to have in the field.
Yeah. So what is your affinity for the English pointer?
It's just a true, in my opinion, now there's 50 different opinions, but it's a true bird dog. I mean, you look at the field trials, it's always the English pointer is an occasional setter, but there's lots of breeds of dogs that are great quail hunters, but English pointer is the traditional quail dog. We've hunted over some good short-haired pointers, but it's always English pointer for me.
Yeah. I hunted over some really good Irish setters in South Africa, of all places. We did they have a bunch of rolling like foothills, and they have the gray-winged partridge there.
Yeah.
And, man, these dogs were awesome.
Yeah, the setters are, in my opinion, a close second.
Mm-hmm.
You probably just lost all your German short-hair pointer listeners, but, I had a setter. Unfortunately, he aged out and lost him last year, but they're great dogs as well. They're a little harder to keep clean with the hair, and pointers can run through those prickly pears and not really be affected, but cockleburs and stickers aren't friends of a setter.
Yeah. Well, so your setters, they don't retrieve. They're already hunting up the
pointers?
next covey. Yeah, sorry, your pointers.
Yeah. My male Bo, he's 9-10 years old. He'll retrieve occasionally, but they're not known for a lot of pointers will get a bird halfway to you and get distracted and drop it. But those cockers, once they latch on, you got to get it out of their mouth.
So you haven't had the cockers for that long, then?
About a year and a half. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's always been fun for me when I haven't done a ton of quail hunting. I'm lucky to get to go maybe once a year, right? And I love it, but people are like, "Hey, bring your lab to clean up."
Hey, labs are great.
Cleanup crew,
great retrievers.
Yeah. To which it was always fun for me to just get my dog to get some work behind a good pointer. But yeah, okay. And Bo is 9 or 10 now.
I think I got him in 2015. So yeah, going on 10.
Mm.
And he's showing it. I mean, he's limping a little bit, but still got an unbelievable nose. I took him out to the research ranch, and he locked up, made a great photo for me, flushed a covey of about 18 birds, and moved on.
Nice. Yeah, I remember Bo. There's a trophy over the mantle in the ranch house there.
He's a field trial champion. Yeah. Unfortunately, it was a small local field trial, but
it still
he won it. Yeah, beat about 25 dogs. So.
Yeah, and you train them all yourself?
No, the guy named Buck Henderson up in Van Alstyne. That's a great dog trainer. I mean, I wish I had the time and patience. I don't have more time than patience because I'm not a very patient guy, but you've got to have that as a dog trainer. And Buck took a dog that I had no control over and turned him into just a gentle giant.
The pointers are not house dogs.
No. Well, I mean, they can be. I've got a puppy pointer, but yeah, she's the male pointers I wouldn't recommend unless you want to be washing your walls all the time.
Right. So they stay out in the kennel.
Yeah.
The cockers stay in the house?
Cockers, well, they're always kenneled, but they're in the house, yeah.
Okay. And it seems like that would be a tough breed as far as the hair and the...
Can be, yeah. They're the cockleburs are just horrible in some places. Mm-hmm. I'm lucky enough I don't have too many on my ranch, but we have a few. But they'll pick up every one of those suckers. Yeah. Those are tough to get out.
Yeah. I mean, even Joe, you go through those dove hunting, and it's like...
Yeah.
It's easy to brush off a lab, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite gauge? Joe, get in your bed.
I'm a 28 gauge guy, and again, there's tons of opinions there. I'm an over/under guy. There's the true traditional quail hunters say you got to shoot a side by side. It's just never fit my eye well. I've got a side by side. I'm still working on it, but 28 gauge over/under is my go-to right now.
Okay. Yeah, I have the kids have 410s, and I've shot a couple dove with Henry's 410, but I typically shoot 20 gauge, but I don't get to quail hunt as much as you.
Well, 20 gauge is a good all-around gun. You can do a lot with that.
But this year was the first time I never picked up a 12 gauge for dove season. Yeah. I don't know if it's because I'm older and wiser. Yeah. But I mean, I didn't pick up the 12 gauge until duck season rolled around.
Yeah, about the only thing I use a 12 gauge for is clays, sporting clays, because more pellets, more chances. But
would you say so? For turkey hunting, we've seen this kind of shift towards smaller bore shotguns, 410s, 28 gauges.
Yeah.
Is that something that is also transcendent into wing shooting?
I think so. I mean, most serious quail hunters are 28 and 410.
But has it always been like that, or is that?
I don't know. I mean, I know back in the old days, most guys hunted with a 12 gauge auto loader, 5 shells.
Right.
And there's still guys that do that. But I think the more sporting traditional quail hunters typically 20 gauge and below. I don't know a lot of 12 gauge quail hunters, but they're out there. But a lot of places won't let you hunt with anything less than a 20 gauge. Boone Pickens Ranch, we'd go up there. It had to be a double barrel, 20 gauge or less. No auto loaders, no 12s, no 16s.
A 16 gauge, I can't even.
It's pretty rare, but they're out there.
I don't know that I've ever shot one.
Yeah, Browning makes a sweet 16 that's pretty popular.
Yeah.
And I think they had them back in the day, and they just reintroduced them a few years ago.
I have one. My grandfather's. I've never shot it.
Yeah.
It's a safe.
A little harder to find ammo, but they're effective.
Yeah. All right. Well, as far as Georgia goes, that's something that's intriguing to me. You go to these trade shows and you see, like, there's one, was it Lonesome Pine, or what is the Pine Hill?
Pine Hill, Rio Pedra. There's lots of them. Yeah.
So are those wild birds? Do they still have wild birds in Georgia?
They do. They have wild birds on a lot of the plantations. Most of those are invitation only, private. There's a lot of money that gets put into a wild quail, operation. A lot of feeding, a lot of predator control. A lot of the commercial hunts there are wild birds supplemented with pen raised birds. The ones that do it really well do an early release in September and dump a bunch of birds out there and let them kind of get acclimated, and then they supplement birds. But the ones I've been on at Pine Hill specifically, I could take you out there and tell you they're wild birds. You wouldn't know the difference. They fly really well, and they're covied up. They're not singles and doubles like a lot of kick and shoots. I mean, they're 20 bird coveys.
Okay. Yeah. You think about I think about West Texas, Throckmorton, Coleman, those places. You hear stories from old timers tell you, man, opening weekend of quail season, there would just be dog boxes on the back of every truck. Motels were full. And I don't know if that's, obviously birds reflect that, right? Like if you don't have the birds, people are going to lose interest in the sport. But I also wanted to ask you about the age of the average quail hunter and whether or not they're aging out of the sport. And if we're replacing them with younger wing shooters and bird dog guys.
Well, that's our mission at Quail Coalition. Part of it is to preserve the wild quail hunting heritage, but also to introduce the next generation, keep them introduced to hunting in the outdoors. But yeah, there's no question quail hunters are in drastic decline in Texas. I don't remember the numbers, but it's way down. And part of that is because there's harder to find birds. Back in the days you're talking about, you could go out to West Texas and hunt just about anywhere and kick up 20, 25 coveys a day. Now it's, about once every 10 years you might be able to do that. And that's why we exist, and luckily have a lot of generous donors that fund our mission, and we're pumping about $3 million a year back into quail research and more every year. I mean, our chapters keep growing, keep raising more money. And we're funding multi-faceted projects across every spectrum. I mean, parasites, habitat, diseases, you name it, we've researched it and we're still going.
Do you think the biggest hang up in, as far as getting younger guys interested in bird dogs and quail hunting is access? Because it's so expensive now. Like a good quail lease is more than a whitetail lease.
Yeah. Well, it is. And Texas is mainly private lands, and, you can deer hunt on 40 acres. You got a quail hunt, a good quail lease is going to be 5,000 acres or more, and that's hard to get. One, you've got to lease up a lot more land, and it's an expensive sport. You don't ever want to sit down and calculate what it costs to harvest a quail. And I did that the other day, and I regretted it. But it's not. The thing they say down in South Texas is the deer hunters show up in their F-250s, and the quail hunters are coming in on their private jets. And you go to Jim Hogg Airport in Hebbronville in a good quail season, and we did a couple of weeks ago. There were 5 G5s and about 10 private jets lined up on the runway. This is a small airport.
Right.
Their airport office is smaller than this room, and but that's what they're known for down there. Yeah.
Well, and so that is unfortunate. The unfortunate reality is,
but there's options. I mean, and that's why the pin raised bird hunts have become so popular. You can spend $300 and go out and have a day quail hunt and kill a bunch of. And I think that's the best way to get introduced into the sport. And if you like it, and it's good to have friends. Sometimes you get invited on some nice quail hunts, and but unless you own land or the public hunting access is not that great. I mean, there's a few, the Matador up in Childress and the Chaparral down in South Texas, but it's it's a tough game out there. There's not a lot of birds and a lot. I mean, sometimes there is, but there's you're dealing with public access, and it's not.
What about in New Mexico?
New Mexico and Arizona has become real popular for public land hunts, and it's different quail. I mean, it's gambles and burns, and that's a bucket list hunt for a lot of people. And their numbers were down a little bit this year, but last year they had some incredible hunts out there.
My wife's uncle went to Arizona this past year for Merns. Yeah, and had a great time.
I haven't done it, but I mean, it's something I want to
do. So as far as growth, you said we're raising more money every year.
Correct. Yeah.
Do we have new chapters that are coming up every year?
We're opening one actually in Oklahoma.
Our first one across
Oklahoma
the Red River.
City, I think we're going to have an event out there in May. A lot of people still consider us the Texas Quail Coalition, but it's we're expanding again to Oklahoma. We've got some interest in Alabama and South Carolina and Florida and Georgia. So we're, part of our model is limited overhead and limited resources, so it's a little bit of a stretch to start moving out. But as we grow, we can hopefully get some more help to help support these chapters. But people love our model.
Mm-hmm. Well, because the money goes back into the state
the
area that.
Well, it goes to wherever the local committee wants it to go. And there's other organizations that say that, but then they kind of pressure you to pay for some biologists or things like that. But I'm not gonna. I mean, there's national organizations that have unbelievable headquarters and a lot of employees, and we're working out of our vehicles and a small little PO box, and it's all for the means of trying to get as much money back on the ground as we can. Mm-hmm. And we're not limited. I mean, we do habitat research, kids programs, you name it. If the chapter wants to support it and it aligns with our mission, it's all theirs.
Okay. Well, and that's the appeal.
Yeah,
and that's
right,
why. And I think hunters got disenfranchised by, we're doing all this work, we're raising all this money for you, and of course, yes, we're happy that it's benefiting conservation or research, whatever. But is it benefiting us?
Well, that's how we came to exist. Is a lot of these were old Quail Unlimited chapters that had to send half the money they raised back to a mothership to fund their budgets, and now the only money that comes back to the membership is the mothership is a membership fee, which is $45 per person, and then that's your membership. So all the other money, like Midland just raised $500,000 last week, and they had very little that will come back, and I'm talking less than $10,000 that will come back to support our budget. So
wow,
they get to put a lot of money back into quail.
Yeah,
and that's how they raise so much money, is because people love that model.
Mm-hmm.
They're not writing checks to pay salaries and pay for light bills. They're paying for quail improvements.
Yeah. So I know one thing that we've been very invested in is eyeworm research.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So talk about that project. We finally came out with a medicated feed, I believe, that is on the market now.
Correct. Yeah, that's it's been about a 10-year process. We started in 2013. Again, raising millions of dollars and putting that to figure out what's going on with quail numbers. Mm-hmm. The old dyed-in-the-wool biologist will tell you it's always habitat, but we were seeing unbelievable ranches in the rolling plains and the panhandle with 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 acres with habitat that was pristine for quail. I mean, what you would consider the Augusta Nationals of quail habitat, and no birds. And I think it was 2010 was a specific year. We got lots of rain in the spring, mild winter or mild summer, lots of birds on the ground in the summer, and then Labor Day came around, they're gone. Barely heard a quail calling, run dogs, no birds. I mean, just a population crash. And that's not habitat. There's something else going on. And we put a lot of money into studying everything from diseases to parasites to aflatoxins in deer corn. And the thing that came out of it was an eyeworm and a cecal worm in the intestines, and eyeworm that quail would eat a grasshopper or a cricket. The egg would hatch and reside in their eyes, and got some gory pictures. And if you can look at those pictures and say, man, that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on with quail, I can't help you. I mean,
I don't know how they even see.
Well, right. And we try not to show those pictures over lunch because it'll make you sick.
Yeah.
But, again, if you can look at that picture and say, that's not a factor. And it's become controversial, and it shouldn't be.
Right.
This is all private dollars. We're not getting any support from the government or the state agencies. This is all private money raised at quail dinners and raffle tickets and live auction sales, and it's something we believe in. And time will tell. I mean, we're not going out here saying this is going to bring quail back, but it's a tool for landowners, and it's totally optional. We're not forcing people to use this.
So what's the blowback? And is it any of it from Texas Parks and Wildlife?
A lot of biologists are stuck in the rut that it's always habitat. If you have good habitat, you'll have quail.
What does Texas Parks and Wildlife say?
Well, it's hard to get much support financially, so I don't know. I mean, you can read the tea leaves, but it's generally encountered resistance from the state agencies and the wildlife biologists, saying that it's always habitat. You got to have the habitat. We know that.
See, it's so different than the way they like. I think they are abusing CWD. Like, I'm not a fan of what they're doing.
Well, I'm not all up on that.
But they want to dictate and blame this disease and say it's the boogeyman, and then we have something we know that is affecting quail, and they're like kind of dismissive of it.
Well, and
it's like the exact opposite of how
it's not just Texas; it's biologists in general. I mean, it's not just agency biologists; it's wildlife biologists, and maybe they're right. I don't know, but to me, science is about trying something and testing it out and seeing if it works, not just.
How do we know this medicated feed reduces the parasite?
Well, that's what we're working on. I mean, it's been proven to eliminate. I mean, you deworm your dogs, your cattle, your horses, your cats. I mean, why not deworm a quail? So we've tried it in labs. It eliminates the eyeworm. There's anecdotal evidence of people using it on their land and having more quail, but that's not scientific.
Right.
So we're in the middle of a 3-year study. We're trying to get funding for it. Not getting much support. We're going to keep selling raffle tickets and steak dinners and raise more money, but it's a 3-year project that's going to take 3 properties. One's going to be treated, one's going to be untreated, one's going to be treated with just regular feed. But we'll compare the results, and that probably still won't be enough to prove it to some people. But if we can just get the landowners to use it and try it, and I'm using it on my place. I'm not saying I'm a 100% believer, but it's a supplemental feed as well with a medication on it, and it eliminates worms. For me, that's
no-brainer
enough to try.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, you look at these pictures, you can't see how that wouldn't have an impact on quail.
Right.
And, the argument is, it doesn't kill the quail. Okay, but the analogy was somebody used the other day was Usain Bolt won every track meet he ever ran in. But imagine he had a pulled hamstring. I mean, it handicaps the bird.
A bird that everything is trying to eat.
Right.
Everything.
I mean, there's been reports of birds flying straight into a window or straight into a building. Maybe their vision's impaired. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. I've just seen that this is a product that removes worms, and the worms look pretty darn scary to me. So if you can get the quail to eat it and remove the worms, it's got to give it a better chance.
So who makes the feed?
It's Bryant Feeds is the manufacturer and the distributor. So we've had a lot of questions. Where do you find it? There's a website, quailguard.com. Quailguard is the trade name of the product. But yeah, you could get on the Bryant Feeds website, see where their feed store is. For me, there's a little feed store up in St. Joe, Texas. It's on the way to my ranch, and they may not have it in stock, but you can ask for it, and they'll have it within a week. And it's $50 a bag. It's not going to break your bank. And a little goes a long way. A bag, quail, they're not big eaters, so you can fill a feeder and it'll last a while. But, feeders are an expense. It's
hunting's expensive.
Sure.
Whether it's quail or deer or whatever.
You put a deer feeder out, that's expensive too, but you see them going out the door every day. For people like me that solely care about quail, I've got 4 feeders on my place, and hey, I mean, we got birds. I'm not saying we have them because we're feeding, but we're in an area of the world where birds don't really exist anymore. Clay County, there's quail, but not big numbers. So, I'll have a little anecdotal evidence. If I feed this for 2 or 3 years and I've got quail when others don't, it's good enough for me. I don't, again, I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it works. We're not claiming it's a silver bullet.
Yeah.
It's another tool.
But optional. It does help eliminate eyeworms.
It does 100%.
That's proven.
Yeah.
So
it's
not like this is a snake oil.
Well, I'm gonna give you a story, and I'm not going to name the ranch because I don't have their permission. But one of the test sites in Aspermont or near Aspermont, they've been using it for 3 years. When they started, over 90% of the birds had eyeworms. They've been using it for 3 years. They had a great quail season this year. A lot of people did. I'm not saying it's because of the medicated feed, but the birds they harvested, less than 10% of them had worms. So it eliminated the worms in the wild.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And they weren't force fed. They weren't, these weren't lab birds. They were birds that on their own free will went into the feeders, ate the feed, which also has a nutritional supplement. I mean, it's a supplemental feed with medication on it. So killed the worms. They've got birds.
Okay. Well, and again, Quailguard is the website.
Quailguard.com. Yes, sir. And that's, it's controversial. It shouldn't be.
Right.
Totally optional.
That's the crazy thing.
If you don't want to use it or you don't believe in it, don't use it. But, we handed out some feeders in the Panhandle in October. A lot of places that were wiped out by the wildfires, and we had to turn people away. There were so many people that wanted them. We gave them a bag of feed and a feeder, and there's 45 quail feeders sitting up there in the Panhandle right now that people are using, and they've got great numbers in the Panhandle. It has nothing to do with the feed we put out because they already had great numbers after the fires, which was truly incredible the way the birds recovered after the million-acre wildfire. But now, our goal is to put some feeders up there to help insulate the quail crops and try to get them to come back and survive, and time will tell. But those landowners up there were very gracious and happy to put those to use.
Okay. What's our upcoming event schedule?
We just had Midland last week. Had an incredible event. Again, they raised over $500,000, and we've got Park Cities Quail coming up March 6th in Dallas.
Sold out, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it was sold out after 2 weeks. And that's the big one. We'll have a great live auction. It's 1,500 people in the room. Truly volunteer effort. There's 40 people on a volunteer committee, and that's our whole model. And then we got Austin in April. We're doing this new Oklahoma City chapter in May, and then we kick back off in the fall.
Okay. And what's the most we've ever raised at the Park Cities?
$2.8 million in 2023. We had Kevin Costner as our T. Boone Pickens Lifetime of Sportsman Award, which was right in the big part of Yellowstone, and his celebrity. And I mean, he's a great hunter and conservationist, but also just happened to be at the peak of his professional career.
Yeah.
And that one sold out in about 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible.
And who was the T. Boone Pickens recipient this year?
Jerry Jones.
Okay.
We were hoping the Cowboys would be a little better this year, but Jerry's a lot of people may not realize he's a true hunter. I mean, he grew up quail hunting and duck hunting, and he's had a great duck lodge up in Stuttgart, and he's got a ranch, lease on the King Ranch, and they've donated quail hunts to our cause for years, and we've raised over $1 million just off of those donations. So he's got his whole family deer hunting, quail hunting, duck hunting, and he's truly a conservationist, and he's leaving a great legacy behind and helped us raise a lot of money. So we're going to give him the award.
Well, and he's no longer the worst GM in Dallas sports.
No, that's Nico.
Yeah, I burned my Luka jersey.
Yeah.
It's
not Luka's fault.
I know, but I can't. What am I going to do with the Luka jersey now? I can't wear it. I don't want to look at it. All it does is make me angry. Yeah. And at first I was like, this had to be Luka, right? Like, when you first hear about it at 11:30 on a Saturday night, you're like, damn it, Luka, you forced your way out of Dallas. Then you find out Luka loved it here. He just bought a $15 million mansion, didn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, and he lost $100 million by getting shafted like that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't. I don't follow the NBA anymore. 40 years. Yeah. Oh, look at this photo. This is me. This is my brothers and I.
Yeah.
Painted jerseys on our bodies when we were broke. 2 of us were in college. My youngest brother was probably in junior high.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money, and we were like, well, Mark Cuban will let us into the game for free if the 2 older ones were definitely, had some bourbon courage going on. But you just paint yourself and run around, act like an idiot, and they're like, you can come in free because we want people like you screaming for the Mavs.
Yeah.
I mean, so I remember falling asleep as a kid listening to the Mavs on AM radio.
Oh, yeah.
And it's all gone for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you can be a Rangers fan.
Well, I love the Rangers. Yeah. I got my Nolan Ryan 5,000 strikeout certificate right there. That was my 9th birthday. My dad took me to that game. So, but I have more free time because now I don't have to watch the NBA.
Yeah. Well, we always, we always hope the Cowboys do well, and
of course,
they got some changes, so we'll see. Maybe next year.
We got to re-sign Micah Parsons. That's the big thing now.
Yeah.
So
sports talk.
Yep. Okay, so that's coming up March, first week of March, the Park Cities Quail annual banquet and auction. We've got the new chapter in Oklahoma City in May, you said?
Yeah, May 3rd is what we're shooting on. We're still locking up venues, and but it looks like that's a Saturday. They want to do it on a Saturday, and it should be good.
Well, springtime's a good time to do one on a Saturday.
Yeah. I
wouldn't recommend it during hunting season.
No.
Yeah. Well, right on, Jay. I appreciate you dropping by the studio. Last question. Well, I have 2 more questions. First, where, if there is a place that you haven't quail hunted yet, where would your bucket list place be that you haven't visited?
Well, I'd say probably Arizona. I've been to Georgia and Florida, and man, I love it out there. I try to get out there every year. Texas is, in my opinion, and there's probably some evidence to back that up, the best populations of quail these days, especially South Texas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never been to Arizona, and that's probably, Arizona, you got Gambel's quail running around like squirrels, and they're everywhere. But
we went
really
to the Waste Management Open
Yeah.
for
they're running around the
my
golf
youngest
course.
brother's bachelor party, and we rented a house there. And literally, just there's a pool in the backyard, and then there's just quail running around.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
every
what in the world? This
I've
is
played
like
golf out there a few times. There's always quail all over the golf course. But the Mearns quail down in Arizona, that'd be my. I've never killed one, so that'd be a great hunt.
And then last question: what is your favorite quail recipe?
Fried quail. I mean, I grew up on fried quail, and I just brought home a big bag of quail from the King Ranch yesterday, so I'm looking forward to that. I usually, harvest a lot of quail in the winter, and then I eat them all year long. Dale Rollins says every quail is a trophy, so just a fried quail breast. To me, there's nothing better in the world.
Yeah. Well, and you would know. I mean, you've got a restaurant, and do you guys do quail there?
We do. We do a quail flauta, which is, in my understanding, is the only where in the world you can get a quail flauta. Now, probably a lot of restaurant owners will hear this and try to duplicate it, but no, that's good. I mean, a smoked quail's great too. But man, I used to go hunting with my grandpa, and I didn't hunt. I just walked with him, but we'd have fried quail every night after a good quail hunt. Doesn't get any better for me.
Yeah. Would you do it with gravy or anything, or?
I'm not a gravy guy, but it works. I mean, I just pick it up and eat it.
Right on, Jay. Well, I appreciate it. The website is quailcoalition.org.
.org, not .com. We get a lot of emails kicked back, people trying to get us at .com, but
right.
It's .org.
Right on. We all check it out, and if you want to become a member, it's all volunteer based. If you want to become a member of a local chapter, if you just want to become a member, $45 for the year. You could do a lifetime membership. Those are what, 1,000?
Life membership's $1,500.
$1,500.
And $1,350 of that's tax deductible. So give it to us and not to Uncle Sam.
Right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thanks, Jay. I appreciate you dropping by.
Yes, sir. Stay warm.
Well, we'll try.